President Kiir arrives in Nairobi to attend a UN summit. Rombe community condemns the murder of Ugandans in their town. And Japan donates 6 ambulances to the country's health sector. Hello, good evening, and welcome to our today's news broadcast on SSBC Live from Juba. I'm Elizabeth Akolda Malak. South Sudan is set to participate in the upcoming Afro-Russian Summit in Sochi this year. This was discussed in a meeting between the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Nial Deng Nial, and the Russian Ambassador Alexander Polyakov in Juba on Monday. According to the Russian diplomat, his country would be ready to listen to more from the country's delegates to the summit. The Transitional National Legislature, in its ordinary sitting chaired by Speaker Anthony Lino Makana, tabled the President's State of Nation address, delivering during the opening of the Assembly to the plenary for discussion. After presentation, the speech was referred to a select committee chaired by Deng Nial, the chairperson of the Assembly's Committee on Justice, for further deliberation. In a statement to SSBC, the spokesperson for the Legislative Assembly, Paul Yohane Bonju, said the committee, comprising 15 members, would discuss the speech and report to the August House within 7 days. Now, the chairperson of the National Pre-Transitional Committee, Tut Gadluak, was briefed by a committee tasked with the monitoring of food to be distributed to various cantonment sites in the country. The chairperson of the committee, General Magerdeng, said the consignment in Reng is on its way to Malakal. Speaking to SSBC, General Magerdeng said the chairperson of the National Pre-Transitional Committee has directed the committee to monitor the food items to ensure they reach their final distribution centers. The National Pre-Transitional Committee purchased the food to ensure that there is enough supply for the army at all the designated cantonment areas in the country. President Kiir, along with the accompanying delegation, is in Nairobi to participate in the UN Habitat Summit. The summit is aimed at creating better quality urban areas. The Kenyan Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Monica Juma, received President Kiir and the First Lady, Mary Ayan Mayadit, at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. 4 national ministers and the Director General of the External Security accompanied the President to Nairobi. Now, the parties to the revitalized peace agreement respect human rights, said the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, Paulina Wanawila, in Juba on Tuesday. Speaking during the opening of a workshop on human rights, the minister said the human rights situation in the country has improved since the signing of the peace agreement. And Ms. Director for Human Rights Division and the representative of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, Eugene Ndorera, said the aim of the workshop was to enable UN agencies, civil society organizations, and the government to implement human rights recommendations and validation on universal periodic review. Representatives from the government, civil society organizations, and UN agencies attended the workshop.
Well, the human rights situation in South Sudan since the cessation of since the signature of the permanent ceasefire, or I would say since July 2016, have been improving. Because now you have peace, and all the parties, with the exception of very, very few, who have signed the peace are respecting it. And so if there is peace, there is always improvement in the situation of human rights. So you can say that we are encouraged. And even the world know now that there is improvement in the situation of human rights in South Sudan.
All of the participants from various sectors like civil society, national human rights institutions, UN agencies, and of course the government, to work together and to come up with a plan on how to implement the recommendation that the government has really adopted. So it's a very good process, and we are glad that the UN as a whole is supporting the process. And it will be important also to see how the implementation will be effective, because at the end of the day, it's about improving the human rights situation in South Sudan, and there are still a lot to do on that.
Now, the Minister of Higher Education, Yen Oralam, and the Turkish Ambassador to Krill Biltekin discussed a scholarship offer to South Sudan by the Turkish government. In a statement to SSBC, Minister Yen Oralam said the meeting also discussed operationalization of a memorandum of understanding between Juba and Istanbul in the field of higher education. The Turkish envoy said his government would continue to support South Sudan's education sector.
He came for a courtesy call. We had a very fruitful meeting in relation to the certain areas concerning the Ministry of Higher Education, Science and Technology. Among them is the scholarship that the Turkish are offering to the people of South Sudan and the graduate and postgraduate. This year we are expecting the launching of this citing scholarship to be officially launched, and the Ministry of Higher Education will be involved in such a process, and we are looking forward to see this happening between October and January. The ambassador came to inform us about this. We could recall that in 2017, I personally had an official visit to Turkey, and we signed an MOU between us and the Republic of South Sudan and the Republic of Turkey.
We just finished 2019 scholarship exams and interviews in the embassy this year. It was at the weekend. I informed Excellency about how it went through, and we were very much impressed with the level of the South Sudanese students. And we discussed how we are going to collaborate for the future scholarships together with the Ministry of Higher Education on the university level and postgraduate level as well. And it was very fruitful, all the discussion about it. Thank you very much. And also we got some suggestions on how Turkey the embassy can proceed with this kind of process to help South Sudanese students.
Japan has donated 6 ambulances to the country's health sector. Upon receiving the vehicles, the National Minister of Health, Dr. Ryagai Kok, said the vehicles would be distributed to various hospitals to facilitate the work of the health workers. Speaking during the occasion, the Minister of Gender, Child and Social Welfare, Awudeng Ashil, commended the role played by Japan in supporting the country's development. The representative of Japanese government pledged Tokyo's continuous support to the South Sudan's health sector.
Collection of blood, drive, and distribution also. The other ambulance, the second ambulance goes to the blood bank of Juba Teaching Hospital. Also regularly supply other centers like the Sabah, other health centers, including the private hospitals or clinics that need blood transfusion. So we thank the people and government of Japan for their constant support.
collector of blood transfusion cells. The Japanese ambassadors and the entire staff of the Embassy of Japan in the Republic of South Sudan has been very instrumental in raising the awareness about the blood donation. They came and donated blood several times. That can help us really mobilize our people to donate blood. But today, for the second time also, they are strengthening our system. Last year, they supported the ministry with 3 vehicles. Now, we are receiving the other 2. So thank you very much, Your Excellency Ambassador.
The states, because it has relieved them from the pressure of the reports from those hospitals every day that services, car, ambulances, I want to congratulate the Minister of Health because I was always getting, like for the last 3 years I have been coming to this office and saying, are we going to realize those ambulances? And there is a great day that it has come into the reality.
About issue, no racial issue, blood is the same common issue. So this is very important to that kind of awareness in this country. So we are.
An 18 SPLA-IO joined SPLM in Juba on Tuesday. The SPLM Secretary for Political Affairs and Mobilization, Kuala Tem, said the door is open to everybody who wishes to join the party. The party's Deputy Secretary for Information, Culture and Communication, Deng Madeng, described SPLM as a revolutionary party that brought freedom to South Sudan. The representative of the opposition, Jukino Fidel, said they have joined the party with the aim of working together to improve the living conditions in the country.
You come back, this is where your legacy is. Once you leave the SPLM, your legacy remains behind. That's why I'm saying whoever has left the party should come back so that this is where your legacy is. Like when he put it well, that he was an officer of the SPLM Australia. He has fought, and that's why the result came out as we have got our independence. Independence did not come without you. We got independence because of you. Because of those that will show you who fought in 1991. The legacy is where? It's here.
Mother unit. As we say always that the SPLM have got many rooms, and it is enough to take everybody from South Sudan. Because we say that SPLM is a revolutionary party. It is not a political party that each and everyone wants to join as he wishes or she wishes, but it is the people of South Sudan revolution. Therefore, we welcome everybody, and our rooms are open to everybody at every time. That's why we say always, we welcome everybody who has come back, and this is what we are telling the youth all the time.
People are scattered for so many reasons which I don't want to mention and don't want to repeat even. And at the end we realized that there's need for South Sudanese to come together and work as one body. I'm now back to my party, the party I fought for. I'm not a new person in this SPLM. I can say this party belongs to us, all of us South Sudanese. I know so many faces here. Like Mary Apaya, we have had some in Ye, this Abu, and I can't remember in Miridi, before even Tuesday. So nothing new I can say.
This is SSBC News. Let's go for a break. Stay with us. President Kiir arrives in Nairobi to attend a UN summit. Rumbe community condemns the murder of Ugandans in their town. And Japan donates 6 ambulances to the country's health sector. You're welcome back. To continue, SPLM members led by the Governor of Lord State, Rizik Zakaria Hassan, briefed the SPLM National Secretariat about the recent visit to China, where they attended a special training on governance and party affairs. The Governor of Amadi State, Joseph Ngere Pashiko, spoke to SSBC on behalf of his colleagues. The SPLM Secretary for Information, Peter Lamboth, described the training as designed to promote the party.
Training was very, very good, and we covered a lot of issues on the mobilization and organization of the party, the discipline, and how the party will organize and direct the country towards development and services of the people. So I think the team, where we have 15 members of the team, mostly the NLC members and the state chairpersons, what we have learned, we have briefed the team, we have briefed also the challenges that we got, and our recommendations, particularly on the Southern Big.
This is the implementation of it, and we are so thankful that they went and completed training, and they have come here to give us some of the lessons they have learned from there, particularly the issues related to the discipline of the party, and the appointments of the cadres, and the importance of cadres being trained before they are given an assignment. And also they talk about the programs that are important to change the lives of people in rural areas, which is the focus of the SPLM. We believe that with the elimination of the SPLM and the coming of peace to the country, we will be able to provide services to our people. Once again, we welcome our team back from China.
The Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Deng Dao Deng, appeared before the Assembly's Committee for Foreign Affairs and International Relations to clarify the policy on international borders between South Sudan, Uganda, Kenya, Ethiopia and Sudan on the reduction of the country's embassies, as well as the crude oil for infrastructural development. Deng Dao said South Sudan has signed an agreement with the Chinese government for 10,000 barrels to build roads connecting Terkeka with Greater Bahr Ghazal. He said the government has reduced its embassies in some countries. The chairperson of the Assembly's Committee for Foreign Affairs and International Relations, Professor George Boreng, commended the ministry for making reforms.
Was a briefing by the Minister of Foreign Affairs on the performance and the current work in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and particularly on the news of the reduction of some of the embassies and the dismissal of some of the staff from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So the committee want to know what is this and what is the issue about it. The second issue was the issue of the concern by the Committee of the Foreign Affairs, particularly on the issues of the borders, the international borders between South Sudan and the neighboring countries, and specifically what the government of South Sudan and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs are doing about it. So this was a concern from the members of the parliament.
There were issues that concern our people, and there was a lot of concern, particularly issues of the border. It's causing a lot of stress, and people are wondering whether we in parliament are doing anything. So while we have Minister of Foreign Affairs that is in the front line, that let us call them and get an update so that we can talk with some facts to our people regarding the situation. What the situation is on the ground, you've already heard from what the minister has said. There are also issues of trading with our neighbors. I think early this month, there was a delegation from Uganda coming to gather information about money is owed to the traders by the government of South Sudan or traders.
Now, Governor Mangar Bong Along briefed the Inspector General of Police, General Majanga Keimalok, on the general security situation in Eastern Lake State. The meeting also touched on the disarmament of civilians and the problems facing the police in Eastern Lake State.
فوق مع كمرة اخبار وقرنا بتاع جنوب. And we agree اتفقنا انه كلنا فوز عشان يكونوا في منطقة بتاع جنوب اللي هربوا منطقة ده بقى في interests بتاع المواطنين فالتاريخ بتاعنا بدري نانو حال وكان ناس بتاع fisheries اللي كان بقول.
South Sudan National Revenue Authority and Customs held the first training of customs officers in Juba on Monday. Speaking to SSBC shortly after the training, the Commissioner General of South Sudan National Revenue Authority, Dr. Alimpio Atipio, appreciated JICA for their first training since the creation of South Sudan National Revenue Authority. The Director General of Customs Service, Major General Akola Yemadut, appreciated JICA for improving the capacity of the customs officers in clearing goods.
The training specifically is based on what? Classification of goods and how to get appropriate rate for the goods that are being imported into the country. It is significant because, as we have said to the East Africa community in October, it is important for our officers to also have this needed capacity to be able to classify the goods which are coming to the country appropriately with the appropriate rate so that we don't lose revenue. So basically the training is to build their capacity, enhance their capacity to be able to classify the good in appropriate manner with the appropriate rate for us to generate more revenue.
You cannot be a customs officer when you are not aware about the HS or kind of classification that you should do, because every items you calculate that way you get the amount of money whereby you the business community can pay actually. And then it's very important, and I'm also giving thanks to the Minister of Finance and especially the JICA, because this training, it has been there for a long time, but because of the war that happened in 2013, it has stopped.
Now, the Yak Community Council for Peace and Development condemned the killing of 2 Ugandan nationals in Rumbek on Sunday. The chairperson of Yak Community, Moses Makudeng, described the murder as senseless and said the government is exerting efforts to apprehend the suspects to face the law.
These youth, they took law into their hand and mistakenly killed Ugandan teachers who have been teaching in Atiaba for more than 10 years. They are considered actually by the community as community members. These people, they know Dinka language, they can dance with them, they can bring their children at, to spend some time here in Atiaba. So they were considered as members of the community. So when they got killed, the members from Yak community decided to make a revenge. But we calm them down on the ground that they don't know yet who killed the teachers. And if they go on rampage, they may even kill other innocent people. So we are urging our community and yet to be calm. And we are urging the government, state government, county government, and even the national government to expedite apprehending of these culprits.
Now, the Independent Boundaries Commission held a consultative meeting with the civil society and SPLA-IO representatives in Maridi State to discuss the number of states, their boundaries, and how to reform the Council of States. The deputy chairperson of the Independent Boundaries Commission, Adamu Shindo, called on South Sudanese to contribute to the implementation of the revitalized peace agreement. Meanwhile, a representative of the SPLA-IO, Captain James Edward, said his group recommends 21 states in the country. Meanwhile, Maridi State Civil Society representative Bukulu Edward Mande called for basic services and development in the country.
For the people of Maridi, and I go from Maridi. It has been a thorough discussion, openly said, and there has been a very cordial atmosphere for the discussion. The discussion was based mainly on the number and state of boundaries. Ultimately, the people of South Sudan, they need peace. They need peace for their development. They need peace for the youth to grow. They need peace to have agricultural products transported, exported. They need peace so that all sectors of the country will develop.
For Lena members with the IO and the message. Now, دارين وايد وعشرين ستيت بس. ده رسالة من سكتة كماندر NT General Alfred Fuchile. Asan شنو مانا بتاعه نحن ما يفرقونا نص أصلا culture بتاعنا كله إنتا. دارين culture ده كله كلكم female white. ما بزول جا من كونغو، ما بزول جا من سنترال أفريقيا، ما بزول جا من إيامل نكان مولود في جنوب السودان. فأنا كان من 10 ولايات ماشين لواحد 20 ولايات أصلا جانا دائما برابا.
Is that since this is a historical process and we are not part of the decision to say there should be 32 states, 21 or whatever number, our concern is, as South Sudanese, numbers do not matter for us. Numbers are not magical. Numbers are not the issue. The issue is there time for us to do and exploit our resources so that our people can develop themselves in peace? That is all we need. The question of numbers is not our.
The Ministry of Environment and Forestry has unveiled plans to plant more than 20 million trees across the country. The Ministry's Undersecretary Joseph Africano Batel revealed this during a workshop on institutional support and capacity building on natural resource management. Joseph Africano said the workshop was intended to identify the drivers of deforestation and forest degradation in the country. A project coordinator at the Ministry of Finance and Planning, Robert Amoko, said the project would promote national resource management and governance. A consultant on social forestry, Professor Pius Zid Yanda, outlined some of the direct drives of deforestation and forest as timber harvesting and logging, fuel and wood gathering, as well as agricultural expansion.
Deforestation and land degradation in South Sudan. These drivers are causing a lot of issues with our forest. So today, this workshop, we are going to identify those drivers. For example, most of them are human activities and actions, like fuel wood collection, charcoal burning, livestock grazing in forest, and expansion of urban areas. But globally, agriculture contributes to over 80% of forest deforestation and degradation. In Africa, it contributes to a third. So issues like timber logging and harvesting is a big issue. Now in South Sudan, we are losing most of our forests because of the haphazard and illegal harvesting that is happening. So as government, and with the help of the African Development Bank that is funding this project, we are going to come up with solutions and strategies that will address the issues of deforestation and land degradation.
The first component is for forest support to land ownership and forest issues. That is component one. Under that, we have support for land commission, and then the first study, a kind of inception study on forest, comprehensive forest use in South Sudan. And then component two is support to the Ministry of Forestry. Under that, we have some component for our forest inventory unit. And then after that, we have also support to Kegulu Forest Training Center, which is in Yei. And then, of course, component three is project management. That is the aspect to do with the operational cost of running the project. So those are the three key areas under this project. And we have achieved a lot.
And that brings us to the end of our news bulletin for this 28th of May 2019. I'm Elizabeth Akolda Malath. I wish you all a good night.
you there in the world, what you're in free, Mayana, you know, Mayana, Mayana, you there in the world, what you're in free, Mayana, you know, Mayana, you there in the world, what you're in free, Mayana, you know, Ulang, Nawana, Mora, Majuru, Mayana, you Nakanya, to Magara, Maya Kadiro Kawana, Mora, Kaman. You Kanya to Magar, Amerimania Jackie, you buy lot I want them. Nana time out, you buy lot I want them. Amerimania Jackie, you buy lot I want them. Nana time out, you buy lot I want them. Mayana, you there in the world, what you're in Mayana, you there in the world, what you're in Mayana, Mayana, you there in the world, what you're in Mayana, you there in the world, what you're in Mayana, Mora, Kaman, you Kanya, do you Magar, Amerimania Jackie, by lot and one, Nana time out, by lot and one, Amerimania Jackie, by lot and one, Nana time out, by lot and one, Mayana, you there in the world, what you're in free, Mayana, Mayana, you there in the world, what you're in free, Mayana, Mayana, go on, Mora, Majuru, Maya, you won't have Kanya, do you Magar, Maya, Kadira, go on, Mora, Kaman, you won't have Kanya, do you Magar, Amerimania Jackie, Tire by lot and one. Nana no time out, Tire by lot and one. Amerimania Jackie, Tire by lot and one. Nana no time out, Tire by lot and one. Amerimania Jackie, Tire by lot and one. Nana no time out, Tire by lot and one. Amerimania Jackie, you buy lot and one. Nana no time out, you buy lot and one. Amerimania Jackie, you buy lot and one. Nana no time out, you buy lot and one. Amerimania Jackie, you buy lot and one. Nana no time out, you buy lot and one. Amerimania Jackie, you buy lot and one. Kano, you kawana maula, Jirga Chato, I kawana maula, Jirga Chana, I kawana maula, Jirga Chato, I kawana maula, Jirga Chana, I kawana maula, Jirga Chato, I kawana maula, Jirga Chana, I kawana maula, Jirga Chato, I kawana maula, Jirga Chana, I kawana maula, Jirga Chato.
On 15th May 2019, the administration of University of Juba organized an event to launch an academic book inspired by urban planning of the region with the title Principles of Urban Regional Planning and Development, written by Alam Seget Gabrikidan, an urban planner and assistant professor at the University of Juba. The program started with a review and summary of the book by Professor Mary Blackings, giving details of the book before displaying an audio-visual and guide of the book. This was followed with a word of appreciation by a representative of the Embassy of the State of Eritrea, a country which the author originates from. A panel of experts taking on the stage to analyze the book and take questions and comments from audience. The panel was made up of Vice Chancellor of University of Juba Professor John Akech and the Secretary of the Ministry of Land, Housing and Planning, Luis Quot Akolip, and Christo Jada, an urban planner and teaching assistant at the University of Juba. The author of the book, Alam Seget Gabrikidan, summarized the program by highlighting the purpose of writing the book and the aim of publishing it. And this is the details of the program.
My aim is to give you a summary of the whole book. There are various themes in this particular book. What I'm going to do is concentrate just on one of them, which is urban-rural conflict, which is predominant in the book. I would like to start with a quotation from the Eritrean community, which says, "Neither be near city nor far from it." This is an Eritrean saying. This saying explains the ambiguity in our love-hate relationship with the urban and the rural. As a result, a lot of slogans and opposing ones have been spun regarding our relations with especially the urban. In 1960s, there was the back to the rural, which was a slogan most politicians use. And taking towns to the people is one of them which we saw recently. The book argues that the urban and the rural should depend on each other and should refrain from establishing an exploitative relationship. The rural should not be disinherited by allowing the urban to invade, exploit, and occupy the rural. The urban should not in turn have monopoly of services, as is the case at present. Services must also be rendered to the rural. In order to achieve this parity, the book argues that the urban should be treated like a person with the capacity to take care of themselves, generate their own income, manage themselves, and other people under them, need not depend on others. No urban area, the book argues, should depend on external sources for funds or financial support. Need to be self-sufficient. For efficient and optimal service delivery, prevention of sprawl, and fair distribution of urban fabric, the book argues for a densification of a minimum of 300 persons per hectare. So what the book is saying is that in an area where there are less than 300 persons, the delivery of services become very expensive. So what the book is arguing for is you need that minimum population. What the book is arguing for is an integrated approach. As a result, the book rejects the notion that urban planning is engineering. What the book is trying to say is that urban engineering is a multifaceted discipline, and therefore it cannot just be there. You need all these other different sections of the community to come together.
Lessons learned from God. Urban planning can be exemplified to the work of God, where in Genesis chapter 1 verse 3 to 5 it says, "Day 1 God created light and time. Day 2 skies and waters. Day 3 dry ground, water bodies and plants. Day 4 the sun, the moon, the stars and the planets. Day 5 the fish and the birds. Day 6 land, animals and humans. And on the 7th day God rested from his work." The perfect planner, God. The perfect planner has given us the perfect template when he created the universe. God created the universe in a logical sequence in 6 days. Fish and birds, for example, did not come before the sky and waters, which would have been ironic where to put them. God had a logic sequence to the way he planned and executed his plans. At the heart of the planning is an integrated approach and sustainability. God created the universe to cater for various creatures who dwelt on it. On our part, this calls for inclusivity, the involvement of all sectors and actors in the planning and execution stages. Our task is therefore to work around and not against these templates, God's creation, or what we call nature. For efficient and effective planning, we need to borrow from this perfect template and understand that the world as we know it did not come into being by accident. There is an analogy that can be made between a human body and that of urban fabric. In this case, the bones in the body structure can be equated to the roads in the urban structure. The arteries and veins can also be equated to water lines, while urine can be equated to sewage or drainage, the waste product to that of garbage. The nervous system can be exemplified to electricity in the urban area. The brain and the heart can also be equated to the government functioning system, while the lung, the liver, the intestines are comparable to the line ministries or organization. When all these systems and structures are functioning well, the human being is said to be healthy, and the real image of the human being is reflected. Similarly, when all these systems and structures are functioning well, and the urban fabric is well set and functioning, the real urban image appears as visible and prosperous. One of the negative impacts of sprawl. Consider a person living and renting where basic services and facilities are available. The person then gets a piece of land to build his own house using money that he either acquired on his own or through a bank loan about 5 kilometers away from where he is. This new settlement, however, does not have the basic facilities and services, including the physical and social infrastructure found in the old area. Since this new environment is not friendly as it lacks basic amenities, this family, including the kids and other dependents, are as a result forced to come back to where they were initially. This adds additional expenses in terms of transport, consumables like shoes, clothes, foods, and etc. The economy of the family becomes destabilized, impacting negatively on the collective society. The burden falls on the immediate target group until the city center administration and the country as a whole takes a stock. They will continue to produce less visionary generation who will always be duplicating problems instead of harnessing opportunities. It is also important to note that sprawl encourages crime, imbalances of socio-cultural makeup of society, destroys environment while putting high demand on infrastructure. Urban integration. In this figure, the diagram portrays here that urban integration leads to more urban centers, which gives rise to socio-economic, cultural, environmental, and territorial integration. The integration in this essence, which begins at the urban, which connects the core town to its outskirts or residential areas, also to the neighboring towns and villages, and to the larger country, with an aim of interconnecting the whole country to share resources and facilities in an equal and even manner. More urban centers are created through magical triangle to integrate the neighboring areas from urban to rural, from towns to neighboring villages. The urban-regional integration should not only be between a specified urban and rural, but should be throughout the country to integrate and interconnect the country with itself. So it gives you the urban, city, town, rural, and regional integration.
On behalf of His Excellency the Ambassador, I would like really to congratulate Professor Alam Sega for this great achievement. Congrats in advance, and thank you very much. We will not be able to be part of the panels because we were not ready, but accept our apology. Thank you very much.
You know, in the book, you talked about Cat 1 and Plan 5. But when you see the system of land allocation in Juba, where you had a plot of 20 by 15 meters, if I have one tree I cut, where will I plant the 5? You clearly explained the linkage between the rural and the urban. I think what is now lacking is that we have to develop a plan for the rural itself.
And it's just maybe 1 month, one make survey and make an excavation, and then after that we will try to distribute plants for the season.
So all together we can say the result of all this training or more years is compiled in a very smart way, the way it has presented here. This by itself is uniqueness. So I would like to appreciate the special uniqueness of Alan Sagat about compiling a job that he did for the last 20 or more years in just very short movie or clip, and in a book not more than 100 pages.
If the Undersecretary, and you want to go and see some places, send those people to that village. Because there is a system there where you are not supposed to do what you are supposed to do. You follow the system.
These mistakes made in the old towns should not be repeated in those new places. We have the human resource. We told those people that we have the human resource, but if we can get to such somebody, we have no problem replicating that exercise, especially now that the book is out. And for those who are not going to have access to the book, they can have a rerun of the presentation.
And people are just building without plan. Even the issues like sanitation, you know, the story building up, and what do you have? You have something.
We are going to talk about the land policy, not in isolation. You check out the laws, like the Land Act, the Children Act, Environment Act, Wildlife Act, Public Government Act. These will help you in helping the land policy. Thank you.
First, in 2012, we had discussion with Alam about how can we empower our community. I didn't know that Alam was an urban planner. I know him as an engineer. Though he hate being called an engineer. And I myself, I hate when people call me an engineer. So our discussion started like, how can we empower our community? By then I was a teaching assistant at the Department of Architecture and University of Juba, part-timer. And our first discussion just go for like 30 minutes. Then I told Alam frankly, Alam, why don't you join us at the University of Juba? I'm teaching there. Then he said, to do what? He said to teach urban planning as an introduction course to our student. He told me, okay, let me think about it. Immediately following day he came, he said, okay, I'm willing to go. We met the dean by then, Dr. James Jonathan, which he really expressed his happiness and readiness that Alam could join the Department of Architecture. People were saying that we should recommend this book for our students. What I want to tell that we have already been teaching students from this book. We took some of the models from this book. We taught our students. In 2013, we took a piece of plot in Jebel. After we teach our students the principle of design of urban planning, then they implement whatever they got from here on that model. Same thing, and it was really great. That was a change for our Department of Architecture. The problem of subdivision of plots let me take Juba as an example. Plots are getting income for the communities. That's why some community members now, they are subdividing plots all over Juba. Prof. Mairi has shedded a light on areas like Tomping and Gudele, and Prof. Jonathan talk about Tomping. I would rather say, I don't know if I'm mistaken, But the land from here, let's take the road from UN base camp. I'm sure that the land between all that road, the land between the two sides of the road has all been subdivided, and it has its owners as we are talking now, and they have the title deed. So you can imagine how big is the problem that we are talking about. Yes, stopping and Munuki and Budele is an exemplary case. It is in front of our eyes. But the one that we don't see until now, what can we do about it? An intervention from the government level is very important, and if it is now, it will be better. I would like to congratulate my colleague Kalam Segat again for the accomplishment of what he has started a long time ago, 16 years I guess. Congratulations, and I wish you all the best in the coming future. Thank you.
What I can say about the book is it's all about planning, and the importance of planning cannot be overemphasized. Planning is everything. Particularly here we are talking of urban and regional planning. There is a saying that says that when we plan things, the odds of their happening goes up. This is very true. When we plan things, the odds of their happening goes up. What we intend to do is realized. This book is written in a well-structured way, and for us as urban planners, it is really an asset to us. We didn't have such a book, comprehensive book, encompasses regional and local experience like this. There are several books that talk broadly about urban planning, but we didn't have a booklet like this that will directly address the issues that concerns the urban planners particularly. The book is really comes at the right time. I will share it with the consultants who are developing the master plan so that it can be efficiently incorporated in that plan. With these few remarks, I would like to thank the audience for giving me the opportunity to speak on this book. Thank you.
As administrator of the university, we will actually support this work, and but it's something that the message needs to go out here to all of us, to our students, and to the communities around, as much as we can to raise awareness, but also to embed in our curricula, this idea of urban planning. Those who actually, whether you are an engineer, whether you are a medical lecturer, whether you are a sociologist, whether you are a rural developer, guy or lady, whether you do community studies, social work, whether you are a linguist, we need these things to embed. So we'll come up with models, but how this work can be taken forward to disseminate the information through our education system, especially university education, to raise awareness in this work. So we will put our weight behind it, we will use the material, we will put in resources and see how this can be disseminated for the transformation of South Sudan and for sustainable development. So I end here, and I want to say that congratulations from Dr. Sudan, and I want to thank my colleagues.
In the introduction in the book here, this is considered as an introduction, no detail, to come up to get understanding for all stakeholders and all multidisciplinary groups. So this is the final. There is another 5 books branching from this. So this is a mother book. No one is complaining about this. I have seen some words from panelists, and no one shouldn't be complaining, from president until any other, about this process. No one. If you come to the truth, we have to explain or complain our curriculums. University leaders or others. We are working on these things, on this, in a very good environment now. Hopefully our region, all this East African region, to be more promising and sustainable, prosperous region, not thinking only by our host country. As you see the models, all the East Africa areas, Eritrea, Ethiopia, Djibouti, Somalia, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania part, until Congo, South Sudan, Sudan, all. So let us be strong. So if you remember the model, information and balance of stakeholders, the rumors, the responsibility, and the informal leaders. These three, there are also many, they are external pressures. If you are very weak, those externalities can penetrate to us and can caliber us. If you are strong, the negative thinker, they will never get any space. So strengthening our internal forces is the only option to get this prosperous development. God bless us. Thank you very much.